I'm not sure what the value is of that. I'm not sure in terms of looking at anybody else's interpretation of a work period has much value. I think it does initially, probably. It's a starting point for a young conductor, but ultimately it has to be your own. And the precise gesture that somebody else used isn't going to mean much coming from you. Also, I think conductors tended to, the good ones, in my opinion, tended to mold eventually their own mannerisms, their own style to whatever group they were working with. If they didn't, sometimes they simply parted ways, happily, and this isn't working out, I'll see you later. But I, too, have done a lot of study of different interpretations. Kleiber's Beethoven V versus Giulini's Beethoven V, why, and what's the difference? And I certainly have those that I lean towards, so that I think that possibly may influence me as a conductor. But I also leave all that behind when I go into score study, and I draw on what I hope is a pretty good knowledge of how to take apart a score and possibly find something in there different from what somebody else has found. And I don't mean that to sound irreverent. I don't place myself in the category of the world-class conductors that I just mentioned. And anybody would do well simply learning an interpretation from someone of that ilk. But I hope that it's possible to also go in and offer something absolutely unique and absolutely different to a score. That said, I don't do a lot of conducting these days of traditional repertoire. I do some, but very little. Primarily, I conduct my own works, where I don't have to argue with the composer about the interpretation. Or if I do, it creates some very strange things going on in my head. Also, it allows me to finesse what's going on with my own work. I'm very happy to conduct my own works. I have a very strong sense of responsibility to my own works and enjoy being able to control that process, especially in the premiere stage when it's a brand new work. Although I will be conducting some film music coming up, so I'm looking forward to that as well. I think all composers and all conductors should think about the fact that they are custodians of an enormous tradition that has been practiced by those that are much greater than we for centuries. And I think you should feel an enormous sense of responsibility to be honest to that tradition and to not leap away from it too quickly. Things have worked for centuries in music, and I think it's ill-advised to ignore that. I think to stretch the envelope, push the envelope, change its color, maybe, is a good thing. But to wholesale leap away from tradition, I don't think that's wise. I think, in my opinion, the best things are built on a solid foundation. Now, that doesn't mean that there haven't been innovators throughout history in music, both as conductors and as composers, but yet if you look deep enough, you find the platform on which they stand is one of tradition, even though they may have taken quite a leap from that. That's where they started. So that, yes, boy, are we custodians, yes. I recently read a statement of Midori where she was talking about her responsibility as an interpreter of music. It impressed the heck out of me, because somebody of that stature who still felt a responsibility to correctly interpret what the composer was trying to say was really something. And I think, if that level of artist is still saying, you need to get into this, you need to find out what was it that this person was trying to say, then I think that's a good lesson for all of us.